Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday. It's 2 o'clock, and that means I'm here live with you. We took last week off to acknowledge Blackout Tuesday, which was a day for many of us who are in the music industry to have a think, have a conversation, have 10 conversations. And I want to just say that I am listening. I am listening. I hope we're all listening. This has been an unprecedented time, and I think that we should all feel hopeful that we're going to have a better country at the end of all of this. That is my hope and prayer for the world. I am going to wait for a couple of you to join. Hello, I see Royal Brothers. I see lots of friends that I already know and some new faces. Today's guest is one of my closest friends and colleagues. She is Laura Allen. She is also known as the Pitch Girl. I met Laura, I think it's almost 20 years ago. And at the time, she came to a podcasters meetup group because I was the host of the New York City podcast meetup group in 2008, 7, 6. God, it's been a lot of years. 7. And she came and she was phenomenal. And I have loved her and followed her work ever since. Laura Allen is basically all of week 2, chapter 2 of my book, Music Success in 9 Weeks. And the reason why is she is an absolute genius at explaining to people, coaching people, and teaching people how to perfect a pitch. She is brilliant. I have gone to her in my darkest days when I cannot formulate what it is I want to say in a concise way. She's a brilliant coach. She's an amazing strategist. And I'm very, very, very excited to welcome her. So I'm going to have her join our live stream right now. Dun, dun, dun. As she's there, she is. Hi, Laura.
Hi. Can you hear me, Ariel?
I hear you perfectly.
Lovely. I am hopeful too in this dark hour. I'm hopeful that music can help us get through because it's something that you can unify all of us, I hope.
I agree. And I think, a lot of people have been asking me, is this a good time to put music out? Yes. Yes, it is.
We need it. We need it.
We need it. And so I did a little intro, as you just heard. I would love for you to take them through a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
So this is my 15-second pitch that we'll talk about. I am Laura Allen. I am the founder of thepitchgirl.com. I can teach anyone to pitch anything in 15 seconds, almost anyone. Outliers.com to learn more. So that's my quick pitch. And my reason for doing what I do is we're in a challenging time right now, but there's also never been a better time to do music if that's art. It's the best time ever because people need to be inspired.
I agree. And I've been saying this a lot. I said it on my most recent podcast for those of you that maybe haven't listened. And I've been saying it often on these lives that if you're willing to put in the work as a artist right now, and when I say it is not about just releasing the music, the work is about finding your tribe and connecting to your tribe. And that means going the extra mile, making sure people are okay on their Facebook page, making sure if you see someone is going through something, talk to them. This is the time for you not to be shouting your stuff at people. That is a very, very bad way, especially now, to ingratiate yourself into their worlds. And I think the entree for having a really important and meaningful two-way relationship with your fans, you need to start with a solid pitch. You need to know who you are. You need to know where you're coming from before you can reach out. And so that's why I'm so thrilled that you're with us today and you're going to take us through your amazing tried and true three-step pitch module, which I love. And we're here also, this is a conversation, not us talking at you. So if any of you have a pitch that you'd like Laura to look at, type it in the comments as we move along, and she'd be delighted to give you feedback. And so that is how it's going to go. So before we dive into how to do a perfect pitch, what are some mistakes that you see, Laura, when people are trying to pitch themselves? I know you've worked with a ton of musicians, you've worked with a lot of my clients. What is a mistake people in general make? And then what is a mistake that musicians specifically tend to make?
Okay. Awesome question, as always. I think the biggest challenge, I think the biggest mistake is people will talk about my music sounds like no other music, or we work harder than any other band. Things like that. That's cool. But there was one band that I interviewed, they had done 1,000 shows. Have you done more than 1,000 shows? I mean, it's not going to make me want to listen to your music because you work really hard. That's a given. You're a musician, you work hard. You're a writer, you work hard. When you tell someone we sound like no other band, you're making them work too hard, right? If I know you, if you're my best friend, I might give it a listen, but make it a little bit easier for somebody who might want to know what you sound like. Give them a couple of hints, and they need to be accurate. So if you're going to say you sound like Led Zeppelin, you better not sound like REO Speedwagon, even though REO Speedwagon, hey, it'd be cool if you sold as many albums as they did, right? Like, lean into that if that's your thing.
Right. I think also when you are creating a pitch, it is important to reference other artists to give people a sense, because of course your music does sound like someone. But there's a nuance that I've found that artists sometimes have a problem distinguishing. Just because you're heavily influenced by the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Patti Smith, the Pretenders, these like blue chip names, it doesn't necessarily mean that you sound like them. And so there's a difference. And I think you can say influenced by the greats of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever it is, but it's very different from sounding like those people. And so, I think if you're going to say like, we sound like Sting, we sound like the Police, we sound like Bruce Springsteen, you better sound like them. If you have a lineup that's similar to the E Street Band, you might say like that, but you probably don't sound like them. If you don't sound exactly like them, if you are a Gaslight Anthem, you can absolutely say Springsteen-esque, right? So understand when you're connecting those dots.
Right.
I think
and
that's
if you don't want to mention a specific band, that's cool too. You could be, we're the newest era of rockabilly. Just give them something that they can grab onto where they know what it is. Otherwise, you're asking them too much to go to your website and check something out if they have no idea at all what it is.
Right. What are some other fatal mistakes that you see?
The biggest mistake is people take too long to get to the point. Mm-hmm. So they'll say, I don't want to have a memorized pitch. I'm just going to be spontaneous. And the problem is when you're spontaneous, it could take 8 minutes for me to explain to you who I am, what I sound like, or anything like that. I might be telling you my life story, which you might be interested in a month from now, 3 months from now, maybe never, but certainly not the first time I'm meeting you. I don't think you're interested in my life story and my band story. I think people expect too much way too soon. And if you get straight to the point right away, people are like, wow, that's really cool. Even if I don't like the band that you're talking about, even if I don't know the band you're talking about, if you have the courage of your convictions to really lean into that pitch, I'm going to give you more time than somebody that's rambling.
Amazing. Okay, so we've got don't be too vague. Don't compare yourself to a giant blue chip artist unless you really think that that's an appropriate match. And we've got be really concise, try to get it to a nugget so you're not rambling, and telling your life story. Let's break down how does Laura Allen structure a pitch?
Okay, so I came up with a 4-step process. Ariel, you had it right. It's 3 steps, but there's a kicker at the end. And I use this formula for entrepreneurs, for artists, for anybody and everyone, because everybody has a different pitch. Even if you use the same formula, you can still be creative. So it's who you are. So that's hello, my name is. That's pretty easy. What you do, or if you're the founder of your band, if you are a singer-songwriter, just tell them what it is. What makes you different? Here's where you can get into genre. We're influenced by Bruce Springsteen. We're influenced by Lady Gaga. We're influenced by Drake. There better be something in there that I can pull. It better not sound like Conway Twitty if you mention those things. And it's okay to compare, but you don't have, like Ariel said, there has to be something familiar. Otherwise, they're going to say, no, this doesn't sound like the Rolling Stones at all. And the 4th bonus step is the call to action. So Ariel's talking about you have to do the hard work always. Whether you're a musician or an entrepreneur, you have to have that, handwritten list when you're out at the event, however you're going to collect those names. I've seen people do this year after year, and other people like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to bother people to get on an email list. Well, that email list, when you can't tour, when you can't do anything right now, that's going to be your saving grace for the future. So those are the people, ask them to sign up for that mailing list. Even if you think, oh, I don't want to bother them, or I don't want to bother building an email list. That's what you really need, because you're cultivating that tribe, that fan base. I'd rather have 1,000 diehard fans than 10,000 people that open one email and then say, whatever.
Totally. Okay, so we've got the 4-step formula. Where is it appropriate if you're a musician? Like, where do I put this pitch? How do I use it in my daily life without feeling like a putsy schmucky, like I'm at a conference coming at you? I think it's really hard, especially for creative types. When you say like you need a pitch, it might begin to feel like, well, I'm not a business. I don't need to have that. And can you explain, like, how would you do that with an aspect of cool, so it doesn't feel like strange and formulated and coming at people?
I get it. I usually ask the other person what they do first. So you're at the networking event, you're at the conference, you have that awkward moment, you kind of see them across the crowded room, they look okay, you go over to them and talk about something that's not business immediately. And I see people at conferences, they get mobbed the second they walk off the stage. I say pitch them later or introduce yourself later, because you're going to try to pitch at South by, something like that, when 100 other people are waiting in line. That's hard. So just kind of get to know them. If you can, focus on them. Oh, hey, Ariel, I liked what you said on the panel. That was really cool. I have your book. It's been really helpful. Focus on the other person and try to build that connection, because people are looking for a reason not to connect with you right now. I haven't even been on LinkedIn in a while because it's a pitch fest. And when times get tough, anybody will pitch anyone for any reason.
Yeah, totally.
And it gets really, you put people on the spot. Whereas if you give them a little bit of time, if you take the effort to get to know them, then they'll want to know what you do versus just pitching immediately.
Rusu Baba had a really good comment, which is I think usually artists have the problem of committing to the genre for the sake of business. So, in other words, if you're a multi-talented artist and you can play lots of different genres, and maybe you play events and you could do like a jazzy evening as well as you could do like a salsa samba evening. I don't know. Maybe you've got different styles. And the minute you say samba, you know, people freak out and they pigeonhole you. And I think that's right. So, you know, you don't always have to commit to the one genre, but you should come up with an eloquent way of pitching that. So, you know, my question back at you would be, when you say for the sake of business, are you talking about playing events? Are you talking about trying to get booked somewhere? Are you what kind of business do you make? Do you make beats for people, or are you in production? I'd love to hear a little bit more about, you know, where that fear is coming in. Because again, I think that's another thing about this sort of modern world of music and how we all listen to music now, and with playlists, people no longer are wildly married to one genre. We're very flexible now in our listening, which I love. And it does make it hard, especially if you're a multifaceted artist, to say, you know, I am soul, or I am smooth jazz, or I play acid rock, or whatever. I mean, you know what I mean? So I do get that. And I think Laura can appreciate that. You don't want to, you know, if Laura said, I only work with female entrepreneurs in the travel business, you know, it's very, very specific, and any other person might not want to work with her, even though that is a client base that she could serve.
Right. And I think the trick is you can have a different pitch for each niche. Mm-hmm. So if you are pitching people that, you know, maybe they like the Rolling Stones. We've mentioned the Rolling Stones, the Pretenders, some of these, you know, classic artists. You could kind of tweak your pitch to the people that you're talking to, right? Whereas if you're speaking to somebody that's in a completely different genre, there might be elements of that genre. It doesn't make you a fake. It doesn't make you a phony. It makes you smart because you're covering a number of different bases. And I think the key is nobody wants to be in that awkward position of hearing your pitch for 15 minutes, right? It's the 15-second pitch, not 15 minutes. So I've even said to people who are in a hurry, I'm like, here's my quick 15-second pitch. And they're like, okay, because you've made them a promise. I'm only going to take 15 seconds of your time. And they're normally really responsive and into that. Or let's say I'm waiting in line to talk to somebody at a conference. I'm going to be first or second in line, first of all, because they're going to run out of time. And I'm going to say, you know what? I see there's 150 people behind me. I'm going to be very brief. Here's my pitch. Here's my card with my pitch on it. I'd love to talk to you more. Because in that instance, that's your opportunity. If they want to get back in touch with you, they can. They may not want to be your best friend forever. That's okay. When you're pitching Barbara Corcoran or you're pitching somebody, you know, in the music industry that's high up, you may not get the chance to be their friend. But you can, if you make a good impression, you have a good reason to follow up in the future, in the near future.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge thing that you mentioned, which is just having the courtesy. It's pretty awful when you're at a conference and on a panel and there's 100 people lined up to say something and there's the one person going on and on and on, and you're like, oh boy, this is so inappropriate. You're not reading the room. It's sort of like the musician that is at the open mic night or at a venue, and like always leave them wanting more is a great way. And I've seen this, unfortunately, many times, artists not really understanding how to read a room, especially in an industry room. They'll watch you for one or two songs. At 3, they'll start talking to other people, and at 4, they're tuning you out if it's a networking event. So understand, your pitch is in your first two songs, your pitch is in that first 15 seconds. Okay, so let's review the steps. And if anyone is brave enough and wants to
Yes. Let's
type
hear
out
it.
their pitch, I think it would be great to have Laura give you some feedback because she's masterful. Okay, so step one, my name is. Step two,
Talk about your band.
okay.
My band is the punk rock older women of West Hampton Beach.
Perfect.
There's a niche.
There's a hell of a niche. Step three.
You could talk about the genre. You could talk about, let's say you want to get really creative with your pitch. Talk about how you are the Tex-Mex version of whatever it is, or you are the best burrito in Mexico, something that's going to make them grab onto it. Don't tell us what you're not. Our music is like no other music. And then you listen to it. I'm sure you've been in this position. It's like other music. And then you're kind of like, okay, do I tell the person that their music is like somebody else? And they're going to get offended. So if you give me some reference, then I can help you out with your music. And I might even be a fan. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Okay. And step four is the call to action. What
Call
is
to
it?
action.
So Laura gave you a good one. Join my mailing list is always a safe, good, easy one, but it could be whatever it is you're looking
Follow
to.
me on Instagram. You want to have a reason to get back in touch with them. And if they're following you, then you have an instant reason to be back in touch because it's just your channel, whatever it is. YouTube is a great thing to be building right now. Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, you have that chance. If you've made a good first impression, you have that chance to get in front of them again.
Right, right. So if anyone feels bold, oh, hey, Courtney. Lots of friends are joining. Hey, Dave. If you want to put your pitch here, the 3 steps that we just outlined, or a quick sentence about who you are, what it is you do, Laura would be more than delighted to weigh in on, is your pitch effective? In the meantime, in this day and age where we have to be really sensitive to how people are feeling about what's going on in the world, do you have any advice about, how and when is what's good behavior right now?
I think you said it perfectly in the beginning. It's just listening. People are really, they're afraid. People are afraid right now.
Yeah.
And if you listen to them, if you try to understand where they're coming from, I think you're going to be in a better place to talk to them later. It's not just buy my stuff. That's really tone deaf. Or come to my concert. Hey, we're able to go to a concert now. Come out to my concert all of a sudden. It's, I know you're worried. I know you're afraid. There are 40 million unemployed people out there. Now's the time for us to get together. Music is a way for people to get together. So let's do this. Maybe it's having a Zoom call where you play and it's a little cocktail hour, something like that, to make them understood. Their time is valuable. That's the whole thing with pitching and listening to something. If I'm going to bother to go to your website or your Facebook page and listen to you, that's time out of my day. So, not that I'm so busy, but it takes effort for people to do that.
And I think acknowledging that time is valuable and there are many other choices at any moment that anyone could be making. I think that's a huge, just to acknowledge that. There's a lot, obviously there's a lot going on. People can get overwhelmed very easily. So I think that's another really eloquent way of, when you make a request of someone to join you on a live or to follow you in any way, being really respectful of who they are and that time is precious and that you appreciate their time is amazing. Very cool. So no one has been brave enough yet to post their pitch here, but we do encourage you.
It's hard. I'm going to tell you, it's hard.
If anybody wants a little coaching too, I won't even read your name. I can just read your pitch. If you feel, or even just a sentence or two, if you've got one, for Laura. And if not, I have many other questions I'd love to ask you. Oh, John Sierra just said, did mine not come through? I don't think it did. Let me see if there's a card. It's not on the questions card.
I saw that. This is a
Yeah,
test,
I saw
is
this.
what I
Yeah,
saw.
I saw that's a test. Try again, John. It seems like we missed the actual pitch, but looking forward to seeing it. Okay, so while he types furiously away and hopefully sends us his pitch, let's talk a little bit about where to place your pitch. So obviously we've talked about you're live. You might want to say it to someone at a conference or at an event or at a meetup. Where else does your 15-second pitch live?
There are a variety of places that it can live. And one of the best places is if you're going to be interviewed on a podcast. So my friend Zach Sloan, who heard me talking on Break the Business podcast, and I said, do hashtag 15-second pitch, and I'll look at your pitch. And he did. And he has this pitch, and he talks about, my music might remind someone of Matchbox 20 teaching the boss how to fight. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So he'll go on, and he has humility. He's a nice guy. He's a hardworking guy. I like his music. When he's interviewed, he gives that pitch, and time again, people will say, wow, that's the most amazing pitch I've ever heard. And he has his 4 steps, because he gets straight to the point, and he has the courage of his convictions. And I know people have said, well, I don't love Matchbox 20. And again, somebody's buying that music. You don't have to love them, but he's going to mention Bruce Springsteen, and he's able to pull it off. So,
right.
So that's what I would say.
Very cool. Okay, we got a brave soul with a pitch. Rusu Baba. Hi, I'm Russo. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Guitarist, producer, living in New York. Please visit my website. And then he has his URL for his website.
Okay, so having a call to action, if you have nothing else, is good, because then there's a chance, right? I've seen people pitch and there's no call to action. They forget their name, they forget their website, they forget who they are, what day it is. So you have something, you have that, but I don't have an idea of genre.
Right. So we know guitarist and we know producer. So how can we drill down into are you like a heavy metal guitarist? Are you a flamenco guitarist? Are you a bluegrass picking type of guitarist? I mean, there's a lot of different styles of guitar. So you might want to drill down into there and give that a little bit more of a shot. Hey, David. Yeah. Okay, I think the pitch has come in from John. Okay, my name is John Sierra Jr. Oops, my pitch card. I'm a singer-songwriter with a pop folk bent with music. Okay. Why is this not?
It gets ... We're like, I want to know more.
With music, I can't read this. Am I stupid? Do I not know how to?
I'm seeing ... with music, .
Tap a response to show it on screen. Okay. Here it is. Learning how to use IG Live while we go. That's nice. Yeah, I'm not seeing it's not coming through on this little card. It's cutting it off. I'm sorry. So if you could type in the comments after with a pop folk bent with, it looks like you're saying with, but I cannot seem to understand. Okay.
Even oh, go ahead.
Here we go. With music aimed at awakening the soul toward deeper things. Let's explore together at johnsierrajr.com. Phew, okay.
Cool. Ariel, what do you think? And then I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay, so I get your singer-songwriter, you've got a pop folk genre, so we've got your name, we've got what it sounds like. Then you've got sort of the feeling that you want to evoke, which is great. You have a sense that you're helping people get towards deeper awakening the soul towards deeper things. So I get that you're probably spiritual in some way, and part of your mission is to take your listeners on that journey. I think where I'm getting a little lost in this pitch is singer-songwriter, pop folk. I think I want a little bit more about what to expect in between those two things.
You know, is it Bob Dylan? Is it, I mean, pop folk is enormous in and of itself, which is why we drill down on genre.
Right, as is singer-songwriter. So I think when people say singer-songwriter, a whole lot of things become evoked. And I think when you say pop folk bent, so I would say if you could drill down and maybe get a little bit more specific.
Yep.
And again, like Laura said, I think you don't have to say I sound like James Taylor or like that, but I think you do have to say something that would evoke.
And also, I think let's explore together at it's cool. That's a cool call to action, but I may not know you well enough yet. I'm just being straight up because when you go and pitch at an event, people will say yes to you. Hey, yeah, that's really cool. Let's do this. If you're pitching in LA, you're going to think you have a deal. You know, they're like, because everything is good. I went out to LA. I thought I had 37 deals in hand. And people just said, no, this is LA. They don't want to say no to you.
Right.
When you're in New York, somebody will shove your ass out of the way. And, no, I don't want to hear about it. Right. So,
right. Totally.
Yeah.
Hey, Chip Green. Okay, Teletubs. Hey, I'm Telly. I'm an alternative hip hop R&B artist from Chicago. Come and let me know what you think.
I need more. You're starting off, you're so much further ahead just saying that than the person that's going to get up and talk for 10 minutes about their influences. You're closer. Chicago, like that Chicago, there's something about it. There's something meatier in there that we can get to. The word alternative is a tricky word because what I think is alternative and what you think is alternative, I think we can get even more specific with this pitch. And there's something about that Chicago. If I could be the biggest thing in Chicago, or if I can be, you know, something in Chicago, that's
Are you
a big
from the
thing
south
on
side?
the Lower East Side, right?
Or from the south side of Chicago? That says a lot for people from the area. Do you want to talk about a specific location in town? Maybe that will give people a sense. Alternative hip hop, I agree. I think when they first started using the term alternative in all genres of music, both hip hop and rock, it did mean something very specific. And I think what then ended up happening was the word alternative got sort of attached to anything that wasn't classically sounding like something. So
yes.
Can you give us a little bit more about what you mean by alternative hip hop / R&B? And then, you know, those two genres, you know, how do those two genres meld together? Is there a way that you could maybe articulate that to us? I'm curious. But you're halfway there for sure. And I think it's a friendly pitch. Come and let me know what you think. That's great. You could put a link to anything, right? You could have SoundCloud, you could have Spotify, you could have, you know, anything. And it's nice. It's asking something in a kind.
It's friendly. I think you said friendly, and I think that's what we need now because everybody's getting their face pitched off about everything. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. So for those of you just joining us, this is Laura Allen, the pitch girl. She's amazing. And those of us who are brave enough are sending over their pitches, and Laura is giving feedback about how she feels the pitch is landing. For those of you that have a pitch where you've done, my music sounds like this plus this, I'd love to see those. If anyone has, even if it's an older pitch, it might need a little bit of a refresh. It would still be great to see what you've got. Okay, so we've talked about a little bit about where you can place your pitch. So in the bio on your social channels, for a podcast, sort of like the introduction that you want people to say. I think it's also on your website, on the bio page or the signature story page. It's always really nice to put your pitch at the very, very top, a short intro to who you are, because if there is like a calendar listings editor or a podcaster or someone's doing an interview with you and they want to write a quick intro, the last thing that you want someone to do is like read through an entire bio that goes on and on and on about everything in your life to pick out what your pitch is. And the other thing is, you definitely don't want someone to pick out the wrong piece. So I think it's also great, not that many musicians have resumes, but I always love when I see a summary of someone, when I see their resume and it says, quick on my feet thinker with great talent at graphic design, then I immediately know, okay, this is a quick thinker. This person's talent lies in this area. Is there a music equivalent that you could put about that's sort of like that, like a very high level pitch? Laura, what do you think of, and I know I've seen a lot of colleagues and artists do this, and I do advise it in my free music publicity lab. If you are nervous or weird about making a pitch, could you use a quote from the media as your pitch, like something someone or a fan said? Do you think that's an effective way?
Yeah, it has to be an outlet that people have heard of, right? So if I say my mother thinks I'm the most wonderful person in the world, that's not going to hold a lot of value to somebody else. But if I get quoted in the Wall Street Journal or Rolling Stone or whatever it is, I've seen people say things like, my fans tell me, or my fans tell us, our fans tell us that we're the most energetic 4-hour groove band that they've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's very specific. You're like, oh, okay. Then it's not like you bragging. It's like, oh, our fans say we're the most dedicated, whatever they may say. It gives you that little bit of buffer that you may want versus saying, I'm the best singer-songwriter since Bob Dylan.
Right.
I don't know why I'm channeling Bob Dylan today.
Probably because of all the unrest in the world. There you go. Okay, Teletub says, laughing out loud, to me, the hardest part is knowing who my music sounds like. I think, yes, that is something that so many artists struggle with that I know and that come to us. One way of addressing that, I think, is if you could email your email list or text 20 of your friends and say, I really would like you to tell me who you think I sound like, or who do I remind you of, and see if any, if 3 or 4 of the same answers come up. Because it is really hard. And I think there's also fear, because if you think like, okay, Craig Greenberg has been on quite a few of our lives, and he says about himself, I sound like Billy Joel. And I think that's a good description. He's a pianist, he's a singer-songwriter, he tells stories in that same way. And he's not scared of that. I think for a lot of people, if they hear the word Billy next to the word Joel, they don't like it, and immediately they're going away. And Craig is okay with that. It's okay. Because I always think there is fear about, well, if the person doesn't like the thing that influenced me, you don't want to turn them off. But it's okay to turn them off. It really is okay to turn them off. Because you can't lie to people. I mean, if you do evoke the sound of Bob Dylan, Billy Joel, whoever it is, if that person doesn't like it, they're never going to like you. Oh, hey, Tasha. She says, it's great to add who an artist sounds like into their EPK. And I learned that from you. Well, I'm glad you did many, many years ago when we worked together. So cool. Anyone else? Do you have a pitch? We've got a couple more minutes before we get thrown off of this live. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Laura, before?
I think you said something really important with the summary, and I want to go back to that because people are afraid, right? Like if I'm not in love with Tom Petty or the Pretenders or whomever, and somebody says I sound like that, I might cringe because my music is very personal. But when you think about these are beloved artists who have sold a friggin' ton of albums over the years and are very influential, think about it like that. People are saying it as a compliment, and if you can kind of say, okay, I can live with that, then you can put it out to your friends. They will tell you, right? And if you don't have that summary, someone like me is going to go in, if I'm interviewing you, and I'm going to pick through that about page, and I'm going to pick the couple of things that you might cringe at. So give me a hint. You could say, my fans have said I sound like Billy Joel, right? We should all be so lucky as to write a tune as catchy and memorable as some of his songs. I don't need to love him. That's cool. People know who it is. It's a point of reference that a lot of people know. We're looking for that common ground. And you could throw all of that out. You could say, I don't care about that at all. That's really dated. My stuff sounds like XYZ, something really different, something really edgy that's going to appeal to another person who might interview you. But if you don't make the choice, they're going to make it for you. They're going to say something that you really don't like that makes you itch. So give them a couple of ideas to make it easier on yourself.
I laugh when you say that. Years ago, I worked with a band called Acoustic Junction. They then changed their name to Fool's Progress when they got signed to a massive record deal, and it wasn't a good choice. However, I digress. We were coming up with their sound and the vibe, and it was Boulder, Colorado in the 90s. So let me just say that first. But you know what they decided they sounded like, and they loved it that day, was soul rock.
Oh, so I thought you were going to say Soul Asylum.
No. Soul rock. Which is true. They were rocking with a soulful edge, and that was back in my traditional PR days. I got them like 100 articles where it just, that was what the journalist grabbed onto. And this is a huge story, a huge moral of the story that I want to leave you with. Journalists are lazy, bloggers are lazy, podcasters are lazy. They've got a ton of content that they need to put together. If you're lucky enough to be featured, you want to make sure that you are controlling the narrative. And if you come up with a term for your music like soul rock, you better well know that this will get published over and over and over and over and over and over and over. By the end of the campaign with this band, they were like, we never want to see soul rock again, and they hated it. So just, you know, be a little mindful that if you are going to make a bold choice, you definitely want to make sure you're okay with it. Last question from Eric Scott before we jump off. Can you say you're a cross between two artists?
100%. Yes.
Oh, or he said, or invent a genre, modern soul rock.
Soul, I like it.
Yeah, Eric, I like it too. I think it gives me a sense. Like, it's soul, but you probably don't sound like 1960s soul. You sound modern. So yes, go with that. For any of you that were too nervous or scared to post your pitch during this session, please find Laura on Instagram. She is the Pitch Girl. Or find me and I will forward it to her. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And Laura is hireable. She will do a power session with you for $100. So if you need someone to help you hone in, get in touch with her on Instagram, and she would be more than happy. She's doing a COVID special right now. She is way more than $100, I will tell you that. If you feel like you want a little psychic surgery with a master, she's your woman. Thank you
I
so much
like
for
it.
joining me. Have a
Thank you,
great day,
Ariel.
everyone.